For centuries, the Vatican has been this incredible symbol of faith, a true beacon for millions of people all over the globe. But you have to wonder, behind those towering walls and beneath those sacred floors, what secrets are locked away? What stories are written in stone, on parchment, and maybe even in bone?
So, what is the Vatican, really? Is it just a center of spiritual life? Or is it also one of the world's most secure vaults, holding discoveries that could totally change how we see our own past? Well, I think we should find out.
Today, we're going to go on a journey. We're going right past the public squares and the grand basilicas that everyone gets to see. We are unlocking doors to rooms that have been sealed for centuries and archives that are only now beginning to see the light of day.
Okay, our first stop is going to take us into the world of art. And here's the crazy part. Some of the greatest treasures weren't found hanging in some fancy gallery. Nope, they were found completely by accident, hidden in plain sight. I want you to picture this. It's 1975. Museum staff are just doing their jobs, trying to figure out where to put a new exit to handle all the tourists. They stumble upon a trap door, pry it open, and underneath, a small, completely forgotten room. What they found inside? Absolutely priceless.
See, this wasn't just any old storage room. This is believed to be the exact spot where Michelangelo himself hid out back in 1530. There was some intense political drama going on in Florence, and he was basically a fugitive. For months, this tiny little chamber was his entire world.
And the contrast here is just wow. We all know the polished perfection of the Sistine Chapel ceiling, right? Or the statue of David. But on the walls of this hideout, we get to see the raw, unfiltered mind of a genius. We're talking charcoal sketches, rough anatomical studies, even early drafts for the famous sculptures that were sitting in the chapels right above his head. This discovery gave us this incredibly rare, intimate peek into his creative process while he was in the middle of a crisis. It shows you how a master uses art to cope with fear and being trapped.
And get this, Michelangelo's hideout wasn't the only accidental find. Not by a long shot. In a totally different part of the Vatican, restorers were just carefully cleaning the walls of a room when faint outlines started to appear from under centuries of grime and soot.
What they uncovered were two absolutely stunning frescoes, probably around 500 years old, in the very room where newly elected popes go for a moment of private reflection. Art historians think they could be from the workshop of the great Raphael himself, but the real painter? Still a mystery. It really makes you wonder, doesn't it? How many other masterpieces are still hiding out there, just waiting for a good spring cleaning?
But art isn't the only thing tucked away inside the Vatican's walls. Our journey now is going to take us from canvases to chronicles, from the visual to the written word, as we step into the legendary Vatican Apostolic Archives.
Just let that number sink in for a second. Over 1,200 years of history. Personal letters between popes and kings, official records of major world events, church documents, all of it stored in one place.
And we're not just talking about ancient history here. The archives hold everything from one of the world's oldest Bibles to the full detailed trial documents of Galileo Galilei in 1633, all the way up to the really controversial records of Pope Pius XII during World War II.
And here's the exciting part. Just recently, the Vatican has started opening these archives up to scholars. So now, we're getting a much clearer picture of that epic clash between Galileo and the Church. We are seeing documents that are forcing historians to completely reevaluate what Pope Pius XII did or didn't do during the Holocaust. And we have better access to foundational texts like the Codex Vaticanus, which is just a cornerstone for biblical studies.
This quote, right here, really captures the huge impact of opening these archives. As these documents get studied, our understanding of history is literally changing in real time. Questions that have been open for decades are finally getting answers, and historical figures we thought we knew are being seen in a totally new light. It just proves that history isn't set in stone. It's always being revised by new evidence.
All right, for our final stop, we are venturing into the realm where faith, history, and pure mystery all collide. We're talking about sacred relics and the very foundations of the Vatican itself.
Hidden deep beneath the magnificent floor of St. Peter's Basilica is the Vatican Necropolis, which is an ancient Roman cemetery. This is where history is literally layered, like a cake. At the very bottom, you've got a pagan and early Christian burial ground. On top of that is the site that's believed to be the tomb of St. Peter himself, and then, built directly over all of that, is the grand basilica we see today.
But hold on, because here's where it gets even more fascinating. The search isn't over. Just recently, in a completely different church in Rome, archaeologists discovered bone fragments that they think could also belong to St. Peter. Now, if that's confirmed, it would be a monumental discovery for Christianity, adding another wild layer to a 2,000-year-old story.
And hey, speaking of monumental relics, we have to talk about one of the most debated artifacts on the planet, the Shroud of Turin. So many people believe this linen cloth is the actual burial shroud of Jesus Christ. But is it a real 2,000-year-old relic or an incredibly clever medieval creation?
Let's just look at the evidence, shall we? On one side, the shroud has this faint, mysterious image of a man with wounds that are totally consistent with crucifixion. But on the other side, radiocarbon dating tests done back in 1988 placed its origins somewhere between 1260 and 1390. Now, critics of that test say the sample might have been contaminated, but the debate still rages on. It's the perfect example of where faith and science are in a head-to-head battle.
So, after our journey through hidden art, secret archives, and ancient relics, what have we learned? And what does it tell us about the mysteries that might still be locked away? We've seen that the secrets of the Vatican kind of fall into a few big buckets, right? You've got your artistic discoveries, like the works of Michelangelo and maybe Raphael. Then you have the archived histories, which are reshaping how we see huge world events. And finally, you have these faith-based relics, which continue to inspire both incredible devotion and intense scientific debate.
But I think the most important thing to take away from all this is simple. History is not a closed book. It's not finished. Whether it's somebody stumbling upon a hidden room or a scholar meticulously translating a 1,200-year-old document, the process of discovery is happening right now. New truths are constantly coming to light.
And that really leaves us with one final, tantalizing question. If these incredible discoveries, from lost art to world-changing documents, are what we've managed to uncover in just the last few decades, what other secrets does the Vatican still hold? What piece of history is still waiting right now behind a locked door or inside a sealed vault, just waiting to be found?